I think a lot of artists are chasing the same thing and the same algorithm and the same performance, and it's like, "Stop it."
It's like knowing when to wear your real hair.
Yes, it's like,
Sometimes it ain't about a bigger wig.
no, sometimes it's about that braid down baldy. You know what I mean? But it's just like, just because you saw Doja do this doesn't mean that we gotta go create a Doja 2.0 performance. Just because you see Doechii doing braids and giving you Adidas on stage, like, that don't mean you need to go braid your hair down and put some Adidas on. Like, I think that's a problem. I think that's what everybody is kind of talking about today.
Is there a shortage of superstars in music? If you pay attention to online chatter, you know there's been lots of commentary around who will succeed Beyoncé, who has been dominating for the past 2 decades, or within rap, who will replace the big three, or now two, who have been at the top for the past 10 or so years. While talented stars exist, their ability to break through and become household names or superstars has diminished. And the path to superstardom is much different from what it was in the past. While social media and streaming has made it easier for artists to build audiences without relying on a record label, or for songs to pop without radio play, it's also created an oversaturated and fragmented music marketplace, making it even harder for songs and artists to be seen, heard, and impactful. Lizzo talked about this a couple weeks ago when she gave a breakdown on why there was no clear song of the summer, attributing that to the congested algorithm.
The way that the algorithm is set up, no one can serve the masses anymore. The internet space wasn't so congested.
And even a couple of months ago, Doechii told British Vogue, quote, "We don't really have a superstar of this generation just yet. When I look at pop culture right now, I'm just trying to figure it out. Okay, what does a Doechii superstar look like? What does it take to make that? I have no clue. I'm still figuring it out," end quote. Becoming a superstar in 2025 or helping create one is an even more nuanced process, and everyone has an opinion about it, including misinformed folks who have never worked in the music industry or contributed to the making of a superstar.
This was the beginning of the end for Miss Tyler.
The promotion of Dopamine, the promotion of Normani has been zero.
Chloe Bailey's first week numbers from her album just came back, man. She sold 10,000 copies now. Come on now. I'm gonna call this one a flop.
But we've brought together a panel of guests who have. First up is Randall Sickamore Medford, who currently manages Don Toliver and is the co-founder of 3 Times Louder, a Brooklyn-based production company that is focused on Brooklyn artists. He's also worked closely as an A&R on Travis Scott and YG's previous albums. Next is Nikki Nelms, a renowned hairstylist whose clients include Janelle Monáe and Zoe Kravitz. She spent the summer working on both Kendrick Lamar and Beyoncé's tours as head of hair. Then we have Fullout Cortland, a talented choreographer who works with artists including Doja Cat and SZA. And to round things out, we have Amanda Sabreah, who owns Thought Factory, a strategic advisory firm helping entrepreneurs and executives sharpen positioning. She doles out really insightful commentary on narrative brand building amongst musicians on her IG account. Today, we are going to talk about how to define a superstar in 2025, the difference between superstars of the past and present, what goes into making a superstar today, and why the industry is struggling to find a rap star in particular. Then we will break down what led to this lack of superstars and who is up next. My name is Aria Hughes, I'm the editor-in-chief of Complex, and I'm asking Sickamore, Nikki Nelms, Fullout Cortland, and Amanda Sabreah to please explain. Hi everyone, welcome. So today we are going to be talking about a conversation that has kind of been circulating for the past few years, but essentially asking, is there a dearth or a lack of superstars? And I want to start the conversation by kind of like going over the definition of a superstar. So this is like the Merriam-Webster definition. Basically, a star who is considered extremely talented, has great public appeal, and can usually command a high salary. But I want to go to another slide. This was a good list that this individual, Johnny Harvey, came up with. So it's bullet points. So a long-running continuity of hit songs and albums, helps define an era, cross-generational appeal, sells out arenas and stadiums, and infiltrates pop culture. Is that like Does that sound good to y'all for the categories of a superstar? Would you add something? Take anything away?
I think everything there from continuity, era, cross-generational arenas, I feel like it all shows a certain level of consistency
Yes.
that I believe a star needs to have. I feel like you need to dominate your space first before you can spread out. And I think that to me is you have to be a star and own. You got to be LeBron in your space before you could really branch out. And I think all those categories lay that out.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just gonna add, like, I think all of this, along with consistency, there's also a longevity, like a cultural gravity and longevity there. But one piece to add is all the superstars that we know, they can be defined in a very simple one-line narrative. And that's created through the consistency and kind of dominating in your lane. But I think you can't be a superstar if you don't have that narrative,
Yeah.
that one line.
You talk about that a lot on your page, which we'll talk about.
Mhm.
I think it's that thing that you can't see and explain about a star too. It's like it won't make it on the list because you don't know how to say it. Because
Yeah.
that feels like a formula or
Mhm.
something to fit into. And I know a lot of non-superstars that can do that,
Mhm.
but they don't have that thing that you can feel it, but you can't say it. It
Right.
feels like you're chosen,
Mm.
you know, and everyone will agree, but it's just you can't describe it,
Aura, which
Aura,
Je ne sais quoi.
je ne sais
yes.
quoi, the Holy Spirit,
Yes.
you
I love
know.
that. Yeah.
It factor.
Mm-hmm.
I
So
agree.
You agree?
1000%.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be the first one to say it, so I was just letting everybody go. But I don't agree with that list. I think you can buy that. Anybody can buy that. Definitely in 2025. You can even buy it. You can even be consistent. Anybody can be consistent. That'll make you no superstar.
Mhm.
I think a superstar is when you look at it, you know exactly what it is. And that goes from sports to artists. That's like looking at amazing. We see amazing people that run, I don't know the terms, in the Olympics. But
Mhm.
then when you look at somebody like a Sha'Carri Richardson, it's like that's a superstar. It's
Mhm.
something in her that's so special that makes her a superstar. You can look at a bunch of artists, but when you look at an artist like a Doja Cat, you're gonna look at her and be like, dang, that girl just got it. She a superstar. But there's so many artists who have every single thing on that list that just don't have that special thing that you just can't teach. You can't figure out what it is. That spark in that eye that they have, that is what makes a superstar. I think she carries everything on that list though. She's the top of her game.
But
But if you
from the
see her in the
beginning.
Olympics, like but from the beginning, before she even was Sha'Carri, from the beginning, when everybody saw her and fell in love with her, she was a superstar. Everybody saw it. Everybody was obsessed with her.
Yeah, it seems like Nikki and Cortland are saying it's more than like practice and things on a list. And you all are saying that that is something that's foundational to it. I believe it's both. Like, and I think everybody has different versions of superstar, which we'll discuss even more as we chat. But I think in general, do y'all think the pipeline to superstardom isn't as strong as it was in the past?
Absolutely.
It's just different. It's a different
Mhm.
route that you could take to be defined as one now, you know? Like the things you would do to get that can be like plugged into like a formula,
Mm.
or like the followers or
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, the TikTok dances or whatever, like my era, it was like they didn't have that, so it was more to it than that. But I think now it might lean you could create it more now, you know?
I think social media changed the definition of a superstar or how somebody becomes a superstar, right? Because in the 90s and the early 2000s and everything before, there were very few outlets. Like when I first started buying Complex, I would buy it, look at all the stores, have that thing like a map, and go everywhere to go see it. So I want to go to this store, and this is where Supreme, this is where Stussy is. Now I just type in the search New York City stores, and it's 4,500 micro influencers who's going to tell me these same things. So it's harder to own your space. And because I think specifically at TikTok, you could be a superstar just talking about braids, or like Nara Smith could just own, she's like a superstar in just like the trad wife lane, right? Like
the scope of what you can be is like a lot more specific versus like 1995, Will Smith, Tom Cruise, Michael Jordan, CBS, 60 Minutes, right? Like that's only a few people got those outlets. So I think now, in my opinion, I feel like people don't feel like superstars enough because we don't see them ever climbing those mountaintops. And by the time they do have a spark, they win a race, they win a game, they have a role, and their cup is full. Like, oh, this person feels like a star. Then I got a brand, pour a little bit out. Doing some random TikTok, pour a little bit out. They just keep diluting their brand, and if you don't come back around and have another hit song or something else or another generational movie or another line that's really incredible, then that the brand stuff doesn't hit. And I think that's what happens. I think these stars, they sell themselves short.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it's really hard it's harder now than ever for an artist, especially one that comes with natural aura and talent, to become that superstar. But we have to look at how things change, where you could create a superstar 20, 25 years ago and think of it like a manufacturing process, right? Like I have this person, they've got an R&B leaning voice. Okay, we're gonna go take them to BET. And then once they get on BET, we're gonna take them to XXL, right? There was sort of like a formula, and they had compartmentalized lanes in which you would just kind of pull your artists through the lanes and they kind of compound on top of each other. Okay, I was on BET. I was at 10 on 106 in Park. Now I'm at 1. Okay, that creates a compounding effect to my superstardom. Now I'm on MTV. That creates something even larger, right? So you had built-in mystique and you had built-in what I call, and I think what from my world we call compounding growth effect, right? Where you do one thing and it opens up 3 other doors for you. Now all of that with algorithmic social media, all of that's flattened. So the rapper longer competes with the rapper, right? The R&B artist no longer competes with the R&B artist. They're all competing with the athlete and the makeup artist and the hair braider. And so, to your point, I think we're still in this early social media craze of how to build a business or a brand in social media where people get excited and they see other people doing so many other different things that they don't ever develop that primary artist identity. Whereas we knew Beyonce as the lead singer in Destiny's Child for what, 10 years, before she went single or before she even launched, a product. So um, it's just harder. And I think it's actually harder mentally for an artist to stay focused on their craft and on their aura and on their it factor because there's so many things that are being thrown at them that look like opportunities a lot earlier as soon as they bubble.
So let's move on to some superstars of the past. None of these are definitive lists. These are just things that I came up with, folks that came to my head immediately of like who kind of probably the archetype of pop star in many ways. We have Michael Jackson, Madonna, Prince, Janet, Whitney, and Mariah. Obviously, a couple of these people have passed, sadly. And then some of them still exist. Mariah just got that Video Vanguard Award last night, her first one, which was very odd to me, but her first VMA. Um, but anyways, so I was looking at these people and I was like, okay, what are some common attributes amongst all of them? And I broke it down as like defined eras, long development process. They had a strong narrative that they built upon, and they also relied on press because they had to. Singular slash unique, and like an intense dedication to the job. So I want to start talking about last night. Doja Cat performed and you choreographed that performance, right?
Mhm.
Yes. And I was looking at it, and I think something that she always does is like a wink to the past, but then always kind of brings in her own thing. And, with this jealous type in this 80s era, I saw a lot of like Janet, Pleasure Principle, and stuff like that. Can you talk about like what y'all were thinking about with this performance and what you're thinking when you're sitting down with someone like Doja for a night like that when she wants to kind of build on her brand and move into superstardom, I presume?
Um, it's just like I would approach any performance. You look at the creative, you look at the stage. Brett Allen Nelson did the creative direction, the styling. And he just sends me all his decks and his like creative visions for the show. And then I take his and like I think of my things that I can attach to it, like my references, my favorites, my icons, and attach my pieces of things to it. Like, hey, can we make this chair fly in? Can we add a mirror? Can we break this glass here?
Mhm.
And I asked those questions, and then he either says yes or no, and he said yes. And from there, I created a performance based on those elements that he gave me. Um, with Doja, she typically just trusts me to go where I want to go. And I know I wanted to lean into the feeling of the 80s, the optimism, the happiness, the joy. But also I know she wanted to nod to like the fact that she used to pop.
Yes.
And she used
Which
to
I love to
compete
see that.
in
Yeah.
popping. So it was important to find a way to incorporate that into the
Mhm.
show and add a break and okay, we're gonna add breakers and we're gonna add a dance break. So it just kept growing and I just of course I was thinking Paula Abdul and Janet and of course the Michaels and the Princes and all of that just mixed in one, but my way. But I really wanted it to feel like something that never stopped moving and for it to feel very optimistic and happy.
Yeah. I think you achieved that.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Doja Cat's a great example of a superstar,
Yeah.
and for a few reasons, right? One, consistency. Two, I like that she's not afraid to be not liked, to
Mhm.
mess up what is working. Like
Mhm.
she goes as like a pop girly
Yeah.
and then does like I'm a cow, you know. Then
Yeah.
she's feel like you have everything figured out. She's like, nah, I'm a rap. And she's like, oh, I like a rap. Then she does like Paint the Town Red. I'm a
Mhm.
devil. You know, now I'm Grace Jones. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And she keeps people
Mhm.
on their toes. And
Mhm.
she's like, I'm sure her team was like, don't do Paint the Town Red. She's like, fuck that. I'm gone. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And I think that's what they make the movies about. You know, like the Bob Dylans and people who, the Muhammad Ali's, their brand might have took a hit at the time when Muhammad Ali didn't want to go to the Vietnam War, you know. But guess what? They're gonna make Will Smith is playing him in the movie now. I think Doja is one of those artists that she's fearless,
Mhm.
she's committed to her art, she's consistent, and she's uber talented.
Mhm.
You know, and somebody just wanna, if she could act, she could put out an album. I just want to see what she's gonna be doing for the next 10 years.
I know you have a production company called
3 times louder.
3 Times Louder. Thank
Mhm.
you. Um, I'm curious, do artists even want this level of superstardom anymore?
Um, they want it at their own speed and their own terms, and I think that like I deal with two different levels of artists,
Yeah.
right? Like I manage like Don Toliver, he's on his fifth album, he wants like big superstar rollouts, and I have artists that like Layla, she's a Afro Latina girl who's 19 years old, makes her own beats from Clinton Hill, Brooklyn. Liam, he's 22 years old, young artist from Harlem. Overcast from the Bay, and they want to go at their own speed. But they want it to be authentically them. And I feel like my job is to shepherd them and make sure, like, okay, I want you to make a classic. I want you to make sure that you do things the right way. Like this is authentically you. Like sometimes they're like, I don't want to do all this press. Like, okay, she hates the word deliverables. Like, okay, we don't. I
Me
don't.
too.
I'm like, you know what? Let's figure out all the deliverables up front. But I think pulling back early in their career prevents burnout, and then creates more mystique and more campaigns, and you're building artists out for the long run. But there's some labels that they want quicker stuff. They want TikTok hits. They want quicker turnaround. So it's dependent on what you want. And I think for every career, because there's some artists like I just want to blow up now, and maybe like my label's not for them, but there's other spaces for them. But then they turn you around quick. This industry now, because of the internet, because of this content world, if you go in that room and be like, yo, I'm ready to do anything and everything, and they be like, okay, motherfucker, we got to put you through the ringer. And then 18 months later, when you don't have another hit or another hit movie or another TV show, or they cut you off the thing. I'm just watching SNL. They just got rid of 3 people over there.
Yeah.
I think 2 of them, or all of them, are either people of color or female. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's just, it gets crazy. So it's really choose your own adventure. And I think that people like Doja who say to themselves, like, I'm gonna move in my own space, my own speed, my own campaign, I'm gonna do my own thing. She's gonna be around in 2035.
And Nikki, So you work with, and one thing we talked about is eras, and it does feel like that's one thing that Doja is dedicated to is like eras, these defined eras. And I know, you work with Janelle Monáe and Zoe Kravitz, and these are both two women who have been really defined by their looks and their image, and you immediately know what they represent based off of their aesthetic. Um, so I know you don't talk about process, but you've clearly been behind a lot of iconic hairstyles and just things that stand the test of time and become signatures for people who are superstars or becoming emerging superstars. Do you think about that, like when you're working with an artist at all,
Do I think about
making them something iconic because they want to be a superstar?
no.
Okay.
Um, like that's not I mean, of course you'd love for that to happen, but
Hmm.
that doesn't lead me.
Yeah.
I just want to get in a good groove
Hmm.
and figure them out
Hmm.
and add my thing to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I really am a good a follower.
Yeah.
I don't want to change anyone, maybe like heighten who maybe the world doesn't see, you
Yeah.
know? So, no, I don't go in saying like, hey, let's make you
Hmm.
an icon.
Yeah.
Sounds so corny. Like, what is that anyway? Because
Yeah.
that's like defined by whoever is looking at you, because not
Yeah.
everybody knows what that is. So you'll forever be dancing and appealing to people that know, people that don't know. Like, just the safest thing, the best thing is to do our thing, you know? And I think I mean, I like my style.
Hmm. Lots
And
of
I
people do.
and so I feel like you mix that in with if I take you on as a client or we work together, I like you too.
Yeah.
So put that together, it's like, I don't know. I don't want to be like cocky, but it's kind of automatically a
Yes.
hit.
I
If
love
we
it.
just mix what you got, what I got,
Hmm.
it'll be fine. And like, also don't worry about what they like.
Yeah.
You know,
But do you also, I mean, you're working with a lot of people who are in the Hollywood space, which is also having a superstar problem. But do you get input from studio? Because that's been a long-standing issue, it seems, is that people who are on the glam teams and working on the looks and the aesthetics, they're getting a lot of commentary and input from other folks on the team.
I don't.
Okay.
Like, that's not even I don't even have that entry.
Yes.
It's like if it's coming from them,
Hmm.
it behooves them to tell the client
Yeah.
and then they can tell me.
Got it.
Because I don't want to ever make someone feel like I'm listening to someone else about them.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. No, that's a good piece of advice.
And I go with my gut.
Yes.
I know what to omit and what to like honor.
Mhm.
I, but no, you'll be crazy listening to
Yes.
everyone because
Yeah.
trust me, like everyone becomes a hairstylist,
Mhm.
on set.
Mhm.
Everybody has an opinion, and I'm like, I don't really think you're qualified.
Yes. So
There have
now.
been times where I've asked for a specific time with a client. I'm
Mm.
like, you know what? It's so noisy all day.
Mhm.
Like, I'll be up in the middle of the night. May I just come to your room and let us figure this out?
Mm.
Like, and let us see what we like in the mirror with just us.
Mhm.
And then we can stand firm moving
Mm.
forward. And they're like, that's cool. I just don't like a lot of noise,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah. I think noise is
I'll make it, but I don't like
Hello.
like it.
I think noise, and we're gonna talk about that later, but noise seems to be something that is holding people back from reaching their full potential as a superstar. But
Paying attention to the noise.
yes, 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 yes. Okay, now we're gonna talk about some superstars of today. I just use their album covers, but Beyoncé, Taylor Swift, Kendrick Lamar, Drake, The Weeknd, Lady Gaga, Ariana Grande, Rihanna. So I felt like they all have those same attributes as the superstars of the past. The only thing that I felt was different was the narrative building and reliance on press. Do y'all agree?
I feel like a lot of those other superstars had strong narrative buildings too.
No, for sure. I meant the reliance on press, I guess, that part of it.
I would say all of those superstars that you have listed got their initial acceleration before social media
Yes.
is what it is today.
Yes.
So they did have a reliance on press that is now gone, but they luckily had that initial press run to get them to a place where by the time they got to social media, people kind of already knew what their
Yes.
narrative
Yeah,
was.
yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah. Speaking
That's
of
a good
that,
point, man, for sure.
but I do want to know from you, like with an artist like a Layla or even a Don Toliver, like what is their view of press? Because you have some like artists that don't want to participate at all, even if they're emerging. Then yeah, what do you tell them about the importance of press in building their brand?
I think it really depends on like the story. They're like it's almost like training a politician. You know, like this is your album, this is your world, these are some talking points, this is what to watch out for. And some of them really want to lean into press. They're like, yo, I want to talk to more people. I want to give my life, and they're naturally better at it. Some of them are a little shyer, and they talk through the music, and it takes them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 projects to get comfortable. So you might have to throw them to like an easier press. So like somebody is doing some kind of easy, like fun chicken chop thing, but
Yes.
maybe not go to Breakfast Club right now because you're not ready for that. Because that's another thing too. You can't just throw people on the fire like the Tyler thing with the Breakfast Club.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That was something that, they probably didn't really think all the way through, and they just throw these people in there.
School me on these debates that they be having about your identity as a South African colored person. What does that even mean?
Can we, yeah, can we not, por favor?
Oh, I like that. We keeping that in the interview too.
Shut up, man.
I like when they talk from the back and say we can't. I like that. I like the character. That's good. That's even better.
And then artists see stuff like that, and they're like, oh, I'm not gonna do it. So you gotta really talk to your artists about their tolerance to press and ask them like how much of yourself are you really gonna give, and are you ready to give?
Mm-hmm.
And and then where do you want to go? Because the more you give, the more you get.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they're like, I don't want to do all that, and sometimes like I'm ready for it. But you don't want to give them like anxiety attacks. These new Gen Z artists, they get crippling anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't like crazier than ever. So it's my job to protect them, but also like kind of push them when needed. But you'll know when they're ready.
But you still feel like the more that your view is that the more that you give to press, the more that you'll get if you're ready.
Depending on the outlet and the reputable outlet, because sometimes like even the press, they're just doing fluff stuff because they want clickbait and they're asking you like this or that, this or that.
I was gonna say, I think it's on the team surrounding the artist to one use the strategy, like really be strategic about where to send them based on their artistry to the press. But I am one that stands firm on the press telling your story is way different than you telling your story on social media. It's going to give you a depth and a gravity to your credibility that even if you post 10 times a day for every day, you're just not going to get on your own until you make it to those platforms. Now, what I will say is what I would love to see is these teams really, really sit with their artists and help them understand their own craft and how to tell the story of their own craft. Because I just think that you send them into the Breakfast Club and they don't have talking points or they don't understand where their value it. They don't understand their it factor, which most artists don't until they're 5 albums in. Then the press kind of falls flat. It doesn't give them the value that I think the press would like them to feel like it does.
Yeah.
Mhm.
If we go back to the current superstars, so Kendrick and Beyoncé both had 2 big summer tours that Nikki, you were attached to both of them. I mean, after being on tour, on the Cowboy Carter tour, and you were like on tour with her, what are some kind of takeaways that you have from that? And Beyonce, who's very singular in her superstardom, and the amount of time she's been able to kind of keep that spot. What's something that you kind of took away from that tour and working on that tour that maybe you didn't have before with her as an artist or didn't think about before?
I saw from the inside,
Mhm.
like how hard she works.
Mhm.
And I measured it to myself
Mhm.
with what's in front of me. And I was like, I gotta go harder, you know?
Mhm.
So even projects that I had after the tours, like I treated them like in my head, I was like, what would Beyonce do? You know?
Mhm.
And I like didn't settle for less in anything. I
Mhm.
just, even if it meant staying up all night
Mhm.
to figure out a thing, that's just what I did, you know? So all positive.
And Kendrick?
The same.
Yeah.
They're just, I mean, they're different, of
Yeah.
course. No two artists are the same, but that's the common denominator in both. It's like have a vision and work really hard and, you know,
Mhm. And be
like
unrelenting about that vision.
lead with that.
Yeah.
And then all of the bells and whistles will follow.
Yes.
But that is, you know, some people I feel like lead with the bells and whistles, and then
Mhm.
that's why the work is a little mediocre,
Mhm.
you know, or the result
Mhm.
feels normal, you know. But like those were some superstar results because that was
Yes.
some superstar work ethic. And there is a difference.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, you thought you could work hard?
Mhm.
Yeah, no, you actually can't. You
Mhm.
don't, you
Mhm.
know? I appreciated seeing that. You know, I felt like it was a gift to me in my life to see like effort and effect,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
from the inside, because it's
Yes.
different. You miss some steps looking at it from the outside,
Mm.
but to see what really goes into it, knowing the work, the lack of sleep, you know, I'm like, I sleep a lot when you think about it. Like I could
That's
shave down some of that, you know what I mean? So yeah.
I know, Cortland, you work with SZA
Mhm.
on GNX. And it's interesting because we're seeing SZA, who has always been like, she was a gymnast. So she's always used her body and moved, but clearly now she's doing a stadium tour. The movements have to be a little bit more pronounced and intentional, etc. You know, talk about working on that tour. And I mean, I think SZA is she's definitely a star, definitely has it.
She's a superstar.
She's a superstar. Okay.
1000%.
Yes. So talk about working on that and just this is a new level for her. So you were kind of helping usher her into this new larger space, stage, etc.
Mhm. It was different for her, something new for her. I think sometimes there's two different kinds of artists, or there's more different kind, but
Mhm.
for me there's two different kinds. There's the kind that I relate to as an artist. We're all artists. Like I want to be normal. That's why I moved out of LA.
Mhm. Mhm.
And there's artists who want to be normal, and then there's artists who want to be famous. And she's one of those artists who want to be a normal girl.
Yes,
She literally wants to be a normal girl. She wants to have fun. Like she wants to she doesn't look at herself through the lens that the world sees her through. And I think sometimes when you're close to artists like that, um, you also see them through the lens of themselves and not the way that the world sees them. And so working with her, I was working with her through the lens of finally understanding how the world views her after going on the last arena tour with her, and just seeing like and just being reminded how influential she is to the world,
Yep.
not Americans, not black girls. Like she's influential to the world. She has changed the game musically, aesthetically, style wise. And so for me, when I approached that tour, I came in it hot. Like I want them to see you on the level that you deserve to be seen at. I want you to be seen on the level that the world sees you as, not as my friend. And like I want the world to see you on that higher level. So that's how I approached it. Of course, listening to her, she wanted it to feel like in her words, Disney on Ice. Um
Mhm.
and so that's what I tried to create and threw some SZA up in there. But like she said, it was just really cool to just see how the world loves SZA. Like she's that girl.
Mhm.
She might hide and go into the mountains and not play the game, the industry games, but The world loves that girl. She is a superstar. She's a bona fide superstar. Very low key, but she's a superstar. 1000%.
Yeah. Another person who's on this list is Rihanna. And Amanda, I wanted to get your opinion on how Rihanna is able to kind of maintain this superstar status, but she doesn't release music.
Rihanna's Rihanna's team, and Rihanna, I've been told, is an incredible A&R herself. uh, I went back and studied Rihanna from the first time she showed up on 106 in Park.
Aw.
And from that very first performance, she gave approachable, spicy girl next door.
Now, why did you name your album Music of the Sun? We were going back and forth of what we should name it. We were like, Rihanna. But to me, that was a bit boring. So I asked people.
Not that you're boring by any means.
I asked people from the label. And they said, you know, it should just represent you, represent where you're from.
That was the lens, and it just got spicier over time. But I think what a lot of people don't realize is Rihanna has this approachability that stays with her, this kindness that's like underneath it all, which I think is naturally her. And so if you can develop that filter, you can do anything within that filter. And so that's how she's able to maintain her being Rihanna, and she will maintain it for forever because they built her filters so intrinsically around her and her it factor, which may not have been always the music. That's how they entered her into the world. But her it factor really is her approachability, her spiciness, you know, her way to capture a room. And so that's what I say to all artists that come to me now is what's really underneath here, right? And how do we develop that so that once you do develop your one lane and you want to move out from that, it doesn't feel disjointed. And it feels very consistent and cohesive. And so that's why she can move product, right? That's why she can, if she dropped an album today, it would go #1. It would just fly off the shelf. Because Rihanna is Rihanna. She's got that filter that she doesn't ever veer from. Rihanna doesn't come out and try to be like super formal, right? Or she never comes out and tries to be like overly street, even though she's with A$AP. Or like she just never tried to pivot and be more New York. She's Rihanna through and through and through. I think that's a little bit of, you know, it factor, aura, natural ability. But I also think that's development around the choices that she herself makes.
That's interesting. Who else do you feel like has that like kind of lens? Maybe not the same exact with Rihanna, but who else do you feel like is on that level? Like they could drop when they want. It doesn't have to be in music. Come out with a film when they want.
Ooh. Denzel. Denzel can drop a movie. Denzel could do nothing for 5 years, age, drop a movie, and we'll all line up at the door to see it because Denzel's lens is ultimate maniacal craft. I'm gonna show up and I'm gonna do a really good job, and I'm gonna overwork right into this role. Denzel, I think she's on the level of a Denzel, but in a whole different sphere.
Yeah. So, who is to blame for the lack of superstars, and how did we get here? Is it the labels that are now signing more artists based on viral hits instead of talent? Is it the artists who might not have the talent to become superstars or don't understand the work ethic needed to pursue that path?
No sleep. Bus. Club. Another club. Another club. Plane. Next place. No sleep. No fear. Nobody believed in me.
Or is it the fans who rabidly critique, comment, or defend celebrities online, making artists feel anxious about their every move? Or is it the internet that makes the barrier to entry lower, the rise to fame quicker, and the lack of artist development even more apparent?
Right? Oh, and every new artist that comes to me is like, I know what my lights are. I want my lights to be. You're like, really? You're at the lights, honey? I'm at who? What are you emoting?
Right.
Can you move a crowd?
Right. Yes.
You know what I mean? Can you give me a feeling?
Yeah.
You just want to be,
isn't it?
honey, bunches of votes.
In this last section, we will explore the factors I just outlined, along with the state of rap superstars, where women fit within that, how pop stars are using rapper tactics and winning, how merch helps determine an artist's reach or path to superstardom, and what's considered an actual flop, since y'all have a lot to say about that. Now we're going to talk about rappers who are superstars. Once again, not definitive, but Jay-Z, Eminem, Lil Wayne, Kendrick Lamar, Drake, Snoop Dogg, Nicki Minaj, Ye. These are just the first that came to mind. If y'all have any suggestions, let me know. The big three. That's been a long-standing conversation with Drake, Kendrick, and J. Cole. And there's always conversations around who is going to succeed them. Do you think there is anybody who is going to succeed them, or will we no longer have a big three?
I feel like Drake and Kendrick still in the big three,
Yeah.
just because Drake kind of fought everybody in that battle, and after a while, it's like a Royal Rumble, and it was just when it was all said and done, was hitting Kendrick. It was like they were in the schoolyard, and everybody just got out the way, like, oh, this is the two final bosses. I feel like J. Cole took himself out that slot,
Yes.
so I think I feel like Tyler doesn't get enough credit.
Agreed.
To the level of influence. Like when I'm dealing with like the kids in my office who are all under like 23, they look at Tyler, everything Tyler does is
Yeah.
like goated. You know what I'm saying? I think like another 10, 15 years, they're gonna look at him like incredibly like influential and look back at the different eras and the world builds. And he's somebody who's done a great job of those 4 steps of just, building. That's
Yeah.
what he's on album number 9. Like, even from Cropacomia until Don't Tap the Glass, I think he does a fantastic job of what stuff you're talking about, Amanda, of like positioning and telling people what to do. And he's like, this is the 3 steps how you go into the album. So I don't think he gets enough credit. But if you're asking me, who do I think in the newer generation is getting in there?
If there will even be a big three, because when you think about Drake, Kendrick, and J. Cole, and even everyone on here, maybe with the exception of like a couple folks, it's like these are people who are dedicated to like rap and lyricism. And obviously Drake jumps in and out of that world, but we all know that he can rap. So it's like, and they kind of are dedicated to a lot of the ABCs of hip hop. Whereas now we're seeing that these artists are a little bit more fluid. Even Tyler, is he on Don't Tap the Glass, he raps, but it's not in it's like he's singing and doing melodies or doing full instrumentals.
Right.
So it's just like, that's why I say, will the definition of the big three have to be redefined? Like, will Tyler be the same level of superstar as a Jay-Z? Is that possible? That's what, yeah.
I think he could if he wanted to. I
Mhm.
feel like because I saw him, he's in a new A24 movie coming out, right?
Mhm.
So as you see him kind of putting his foot in the water,
Mhm.
I think Jay-Z put it the best, right? He said rap is like a combination of like boxing and poetry. So it's always going to be a little bit competitive. It's always going to be somebody who wants to be the best. And there's a whole new generation of like all hip hop guys like
Mhm.
Monáe and Overcast and
Mhm.
Beyoncé and Samara Sin that are all coming up looking for like that new competitive generation. I think TikTok kind of fucked up the last 5 years for artists. I think everybody kind of got lost their like aura, mystique, je ne sais quoi. And now, who's actually done a really great job of building up like this thing is like the pop girlies.
Mm.
The Dojas and the
Mhm.
Sabrinas
Mhm.
and the Billies and Beyonce. Like it's like we're like peaking in pop.
Yeah.
And I think hip hop needs to kind of like look at what they're doing over there and give a little bit more mystique so they can really compete. Because
Yeah.
they're giving records, they're giving rollouts, they're giving bodies of work. Even like Olivia Rodrigo had like a diss record to Sabrina Carpenter. Carpenter came back. Charlie XCX has a feature with Billie Eilish on it. Like
Yeah.
they're doing some of the stuff that hip hop used to do.
Yeah, that's
And
interesting.
doing it,
Yeah.
and to the point where like, yesterday, we're like, who had the best set? Was it Sabrina? Was it Doja? Was it Mariah? It's kind of crazy what they're doing. I really think it's like sick watching the pop world use a lot of like the hip hop tactics.
Mhm.
And I think that hip hop needs to kind of get back to that. We're a little too DIY. We got to give a little bit more of a show right now.
One person who I want to talk about who's, Cardi, Playboy Cardi, who's such an interesting case. He performed at Complex Con either last year or whatever. And like his fans are dedicated. Like, it's damn near a cult, but like they love him and they dress up like him, but he doesn't play the game in the same way that even maybe someone like his mentor Rocky does or whatever. Amanda, have you looked at his brand and why? I also want to know he has one of the best-selling albums of 2025 so far. He's like at number 10. He's like inching into 1 million sold, whatever. Have you thought about Cardi's brand and why he has the resonance he has? But I don't know if we would say he's like a household name.
Yeah, actually, on the way here, I was thinking, who would I deem as being the next rap superstar? And I chose Cardi. I don't know. So Cardi to me is like the perfect way you take a product to market because the way to break anything is to be incredibly almost cult like with a group of people and to not be for everyone. And I think a lot of artists these days want to be for everyone very early on. And Cardi did something interesting where he came to market, he captured the Atlanta market immediately with Pierre Bourne and, you know, the whole Magnolia and all that. Then he had people that kind of were coming off of Future a little bit. He kind of went in that route. And then he kind of left turned. It's almost like he looked at the data of who was the most committed to him and just said, I'm just going to be for these people, right? And he has stayed there for years. I've even thought I'm a huge Cardi fan, and these last couple albums I'm like, I don't think this is for me, but it's still got the Cardi sound. And so he also has the look, he has the je ne sais quoi. He's very handsome, you know. He could probably he could one day wake up and say, I'm gonna go for a different look. I'm gonna call Nikki and I'm gonna do something different. And people will accept it because he has a certain stature to him. Um, but I think that's my take on Cardi. And I could go deeper, but that's my take is he chose who he was for and didn't care about anything else. And that is the ultimate way to become a superstar, in my opinion. And even not to compare him to Beyoncé. Beyoncé did that when she went back and came out with Formation and Lemonade. She said, no, 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 I'm for this group of people. And she has stayed there for the remaining time.
Yeah, I agree 100% on the Cardi take because he also doesn't do anything else.
Yeah.
Right.
He doesn't do any products. He doesn't do any like brands, no clothing lines. He's just him, opium, and it's just he takes a very punk approach.
Yeah.
When he went to the whole lot of Red Turn, and he stays incredibly punk and uses punk aesthetics and the way he dresses, and even now he came back in hip hop but he plays like he creates these worlds no different than any one of the pop girls. He just does it for like the fanboys.
Yeah, not the fanboys. Yes, the fanboys. Another person I want to talk about who has a very loyal fan base, the Barbs, Nikki, who has clearly created a blueprint for a lot of the young rap girls who want to be pop stars, you know, and I think Nikki has always kind of, I mean, she's had the range and the talent to be more than, and there's nothing wrong with being just a rap star, but she wanted to be a superstar and she had the talent and ability to be that. I know you helped her out at the early stages of her career. Was that something that was always of interest to her, you think, being like bigger than maybe what the industry might want her to be or expected her to be?
I only worked for Nikki for like 6 months as
Okay.
a manager, but in those 6 months, like in the itty bitty piggy era, she knew exactly where she wanted to go. This is before she was with Deb, before she was with Wayne. She knew she wanted to be a superstar. She knew how she wanted to move, and she always had the end game in mind and was going to do whatever she needed to do. She always had like the professionalism and everything from it. And with her, it was so difficult because her her archetype didn't really exist.
Yes.
You know, I think the closest thing was maybe like Foxy Brown and Little Kim, maybe Trina if you want to throw her in there. But there wasn't anybody like Nikki, and now they're all like Nikki.
Yes. Yeah.
Everybody, you know what I'm saying? So it's always the difference between being like kind of like somebody who's hot and somebody who's like an original.
Yeah.
And I think her coming out competing with the guys and being on a Versa Monster and just doing big hits with like Beyonce and just doing it at her level. She's probably the most underrated superstar in us, and I think maybe because she doesn't play like the mystique game as much because she's so competitive, and that's because she came up in a time where hip hop was super competitive, and
Yeah.
she's always gonna foot on your neck. But I think one day they're really gonna sit back and look at her and really give her flowers when the smoke is all clear.
But I do think one thing that you were talking about, which is interesting to me, is I was thinking about Super Bass, and that was kind of like her big crossover hit. And then I was thinking about that, and she kind of had to play in this like pop space to have that. But then I was thinking about Travis Scott, who you work with as well, and Sicko Mode. And it feels like crossover for female rappers is different for crossover for male rappers. Like when y'all were making Sicko Mode, like what did you think it was gonna be as successful as it was?
I think Sycamore was like the last song created on Astroworld, and like in the last couple weeks, like maybe the last week before the album came out, and we had a rollout, we had the world build, the floating heads, and we said we're gonna drop this album on whatever day it was, Friday or Tuesday, and the following Monday we're gonna pick like a single, and Travis sent a group text, Sicko Mode, so we kind of let the people kind of pick the song, and that just really turned more into like a cultural phenomenon with him. But that was on a base of kind of like a Cardi like following of these rabid fans, and he's gonna go on tour with Juicy J, then Young Thug, then he's going on tour with The Weeknd, then Rihanna, then Kendrick Lamar. All before he went to his own solo tour, and he always did a great job of brand building, brand association. He was working on the Nike the whole time while he was working on his album for those 2 years, and somebody who knew he's amazing at, like, selling product and was able to cash in a lot of his cool and be like, "Okay, now I'm gonna be able to pull this off and do all these collaborations and then come back and drop an album." So he's, like, an amazing marketer. I always kinda think about him like a Walt Disney almost, the way he kinda builds, worlds and brand collaborations from everybody from, like, AP to Dior, like he's done some into Nike, he's done some amazing things.
How should artists think about merchandise as a revenue stream and a way to scale their brand and move towards superstardom?
I think artists should look at merch like an extension of the rollout, and this is a way and a piece of material that you get to lock in with your favorite artist. Like, I think just having like a picture of your face on a t-shirt is a cheap way out. Like if you're gonna go and buy merch, like give it the name of the city, like, give it something custom, something, a piece of memorabilia of ephemera that I know like I could always look back and feel like this moment. If you think of like our favorite merchandise, it's like, oh, okay, I remember when I was there and I need to take this piece of material away from it, like from it. So I always remember it. And I feel like for a new artist, you could use it as part of like the extension. Like I think some people do really sick merch. I watch, like somebody like Travis does merch for every single show. Like they did a Brazil show the other day. Had him and Don had custom merch, and you always have to remember who you're doing it for. And you're doing it for your fans who are gonna walk away or have something to wear, and it's gonna be part of the experience. So pay for a real graphic designer, really do it up and give them an extension of that world and switch it up. Don't just sell the same t-shirt every day on tour. Just like switch it up, different days, different things, and just it's part of the experience, just like anything else. And this is the way that fans can interact with the experience, and not just like a revenue stream.
Okay, so speaking of rap and the rap girlies, and I want to talk to you, Cortland, because you've worked with a few of them. So Doja Cat, Sweetie, Doechii, etc. And you see this move towards bigger stage performances and choreography. What have you thought about this shift? What do you think that the audience perceives somebody as more of a superstar if they're doing choreographed, intricate moves? Like, what have you thought of rappers, women rappers moving into this space? But even like I saw NBA YoungBoy, it looks like Tiana Taylor creative directed his thing and he's doing some light choreography. So yeah, what do you think of that?
I think that choreography and more does not make anybody more of a superstar. I think that is a stupid narrative because of TikTok and people just wanting to dance. But I think that there's some artists I wish they would get them dancers off the stage and go and perform and hire you somebody to do your movement direction and your choreography and help you find who you are. I've seen some of my favorite performances from certain artists like Doechii. My favorite performances from her before she got into this space. I'm speaking of like early Doechii before the world caught on. But from her early times, like some of my favorite performances from her was when she was on stage by herself because she just was able to show us who she really was and black out. And not saying that that's what she needs to do, but that's what some of these other artists need to do. The answer is not always dancers. Sometimes it's getting in tune with yourself and finding the safe space to black out and to have those moments. So I think a lot of artists are chasing the same thing and the same algorithm and the same performance, and it's like, stop it.
It's like knowing when to wear your real hair.
Yes, it's like
Sometimes it ain't about a bigger wig.
no, sometimes it's about that braid down baldy. You know what I mean? But it's just like just because you saw Doja do this doesn't mean that we got to go create a Doja 2.0 performance. Just because you see Doechii doing braids and giving you Adidas on stage, like that don't mean you need to go braid your hair down and put some Adidas on. Like I think that's a problem. I think that's what everybody is kind of talking about today is this culture of social media where people are not honing in on originality. People are honing in on what they see. And not enough people are saying, actually, I'm going to take a break from social media and get in time with myself and tune with myself for this next month before my album or before I start recording music. I'm just going to shut down and not see anything. There's not enough people intentionally trying not to look at the other things.
Yeah. I wanted to bring up Doechii because I thought it was just very interesting how once she released that the alligator bites never heal. What's it called, right? That EP, that it kind of obviously she had some songs that resonated with people and people saw the talent and she's a star. But it seems like, yeah, that alligator bites never heal really kind of crystallized her with a larger audience. And that also included her changing her hair to those really beautiful cornrows. And I think she was presenting a story or a character or a narrative that I guess people could, I don't know, understand. But I mean, what do you think, Amanda, about Doechii's move from having these like really great songs that people like and that were charting, but then moving into Alligator Bites Never Heal, and it was kind of like she became critically acclaimed, you know?
I consider Doechii to be the Kobe of the league. I think she's still working very hard. Um, I think she's almost in her pocket, but she's not quite in the pocket yet, if that makes sense. So you're gonna see
Well, why do you say that?
because one, maybe it's just because I see so much potential in her. And so I could be wrong. She could be in her pocket, but I see a lot of potential in Doechii to be the next superstar. Um, and I think Doechie's at what I would call a brand crossroads, where you get that first initial acceleration and you've got to decide, am I going to be, again, for everyone, or am I going to go back and just be for who I'm for and not be, and like have a definitive who I'm not for? And I'm not sure if she and her team have had that conversation. If they haven't, they should. But that's why I say she hasn't found her pocket because I think I see her vacillating with her choices between, and they may have a plan that's very clear, but from the outside looking in, from my perspective, I think she's trying to accept, should I be critically acclaimed, a critically acclaimed superstar and like do all the things around that, or should I be a really talented musician? And so I think that's why I say I don't think she's like found the pocket yet, but I think she's almost there. I do think she's Kobe though. A young Kobe.
Yeah. Sycamore, why do you think what she did resonated with people? To me, I saw it as she was kind of like, she started to represent this, and not even if she was doing it purposely, but obviously the boom bap resonated with folks, including men. And then also it felt like she was being the antithesis to this category that has emerged, pussy rap. Excuse my French or whatever. But yeah, so it feels like people were like, "Oh, she's different. She's different from them and we like her." Why do you think it kind of like took off in the way it did?
I think that Doechii's story is bigger than rap because people resonated with her come up. They resonated with her making vlogs in her room. They resonate with her reading every page and chapter of The Artist's Way and doing it. And she became a symbol of you could do it too. Like it's almost like a Virgil story. Like, wow, she sat there in her room that looks like mine in Florida, and she manifested this whole shit.
Good morning, Doe Trees. Today is a wonderful Wednesday morning. It's hump day. I'm so freaking excited that it's Wednesday because I have an interview this morning. I'm getting a job.
You know what I'm saying? And that was the story. So when she got on stage and got that Grammy, it's like, oh yeah, like I fuck with her. Like she did it. Like, you know, I think to Amanda's point now, she's going a little big now with all like the Vogue and the fashion, the covers and Met Gala and everything. It's putting a lot of pressure on her next album.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe unnecessarily,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying? Because you start losing some of that aura and goodwill that you built up with your audience over the course of time. And I think now, like, when it all said and done, like everybody was still like now it's just depending on her next record. And if she knocks it out the park with her next record, it's no problem.
Yeah.
But if she doesn't, it puts a lot of pressure on her as an album. And I think that's kind of like what we're talking about in this superstar era. Like sometimes people put just because you can say yes to everything doesn't mean you should. You know, and you put unnecessary pressure on yourself and your art. And you know, it's tough to have orange and Ace when you're under pressure.
Yeah.
So, you know, but you know, she's Kobe, so she could probably deal with it. And I think like, especially in rap, a lot of it is almost like method acting or like campaigning. So I always use this metaphor to some of my younger artists, like you have to know, I guess, your lens, right? Like when you're like the top street rapper, like you're like a Jeezy, you're like, I'm the realest. I'm the realest in the whole, you know what I mean? And that has a short shelf life because after you make enough money and you people see you like, you know, doing enough things, you can't be the real, you know, can't be the king of the parking lot forever. Versus Jay-Z's lens is like, I'm a hustler and I'm gonna just keep flipping. So every time Jay-Z does something, it doesn't look like selling out because he keeps saying like, well, shit, I'm a hustler. I'm gonna keep flipping. I just got $1 billion. So, but that wouldn't work for certain people because that's not, that wouldn't work for like, you know, a rapper with like a Talib Kweli because that's not his lens, you know? So you gotta be really clear in this hip hop shit of what you're putting out. So Doechie's shit is, you know, like you could do it too. I just did it, but now it's like I made it. It's a tough one. It's a tough narrative shift. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's the angle you're gonna take? Because are you still the underdog? Versus J. Cole, who, you know, second album, he'd say, you know what, I'm taking the Versace shirt off, you're taking the big chain off, I'm riding a bike, blowing my hair out, and now I'm this guy. But then, and I'm the approachable guy. But then when he started going like, I'm the best, and he said, okay, now go fight. He like, nah, I'm good. It's a tough lens, you know what I'm saying? So it's like it's a tough thing. Like that's why having the right team, understanding what you stand for as an artist is important because people are gonna hold you to it, especially in hip hop, more than like pop music where they just care about like, you know, Sabrina Carpenter could do anything. She as long as she makes a good song. Nobody's holding her to any standard of what you say. But hip hop, you know, is supposed to come from the bottom.
We're gonna now play a game. Why are there so few superstars, true or false? And everybody can participate. And these are gonna be kind of like the common reasons that are said on the internet. So first one, the music isn't as good now as it was back then. True or false?
True. True.
True.
I think they don't spend.
Is it a C?
Like what?
It's
In
not
between?
true or false. It's different.
Okay.
The ears are different.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Why isn't the music as good? Yeah, why?
People put more time into the music back then.
Yeah.
There's more focus. There's more professionalism. Like, you know, just the internet is a good or bad thing. Just because you can make a record in 30 minutes and put it out doesn't mean you should.
With that oversaturation, it becomes obviously harder for artists to break through. And I think there's also an inflated sense of what the numbers should be. And we saw that with Tyla. Well, first and foremost, what is a flop in 2025? You know, because she apparently, you know, did 3,700 copies sold, whatever, stream, whatever. Is that a flop? Because like,
I feel like flops only based on what your goals are.
yeah,
You know what I'm
okay.
saying? If you're going to try to be like an indie darling, right? Because I don't think like Dolce Alligators did a lot this first week. I think it was like 12,000 or 8,000, something like that. But it was a huge success because she was going for a critical acclaim. So it really just depends what you're going for. If you're going for mass success, then people are going to judge you based on mass success.
Yes. So that brings us to you, Amanda, where you had this really great video kind of breaking down why you believed Tyla didn't connect or didn't at least sell or stream as much as she was expected to. And I think the core of your story was that she hasn't connected the dots enough for consumers, especially with her coming from South Africa and now trying to break here in the United States. And there's a big cultural gap.
I don't think Tyla is finished. In any great pursuit, there will be failure. That is the cost of trying to go big. Did Tyla flop? No. Her EP sold around 3,700 units first week, but pulled in over 60 million streams and roughly 40,000 album equivalents. She's still topping Afrobeat charts and connecting globally. But put the numbers aside, what's missing is the story.
Talk more about that. And, you know, a lot of the comments from her fans were like, you know, she's a global artist. She doesn't need to break in the US. I'm gonna come back to that. But talk more about that. And like we talked earlier about this flattening of the algorithm and fans can hurt artists. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah. So first things first, I don't think Tyla flopped. I think Tyla is on a long time horizon. And whenever you're on a long time horizon, you're gonna have failures. Um, I'm not one to judge whether this EP was a failure or not. But I actually created a video months ago and I said, Tyla has the look. I actually liked a lot of the songs on her first, I'm not sure if it was an album or an EP, the first one. But all I knew and see of Tyla is I'm this really, really cute girl who can dance. And I and I believe anyone that's in my position would say that that's not enough to keep you sustainable right now and to keep you connected right now. There's no lens yet on Tyla. And in South Africa, she may have a lens. And I think that's what a lot of her South African fans were saying is she has a lens here. You guys don't understand the lens. And so my whole take was, but you guys are breaking, she's on the media here in the US. You've got to expand her lens in a way that everybody in the whole world can understand. And if she wants to be a South African artist, she might be hitting all the cues and all the spots. But if she wants to be a global artist, we have to understand her unique story of being a, you know, from South Africa, of being colored. They should have given her some talking points on how to address that question. And so that's my take on Ty. I think she'll be fine. I think if they help her develop her narrative, she will be fine. Um, but I think that breaking a global artist and breaking a national artist are two very, very different things, and it's very hard. And I also will say, with social media being what it is, it's almost a detriment to get that big that fast because you're not ready to tell your story in the many different ways in which you need to tell it so that people don't attack you. And so when people start attacking you because you haven't developed your own, like all of the different ways you need to tell your story, and your fans are attacking each other, it just makes it harder for the artist to then come back and try and you know, appease the different cultures in whatever way, right? Because now if she leans too far Black American, what are the South African artists going to say? Oh, well, she's leaning there, and so I feel for her, but that's what I was saying.
Okay, let's go to reason number 2. Artist development slash A&R is no longer a thing.
I do think artist development is not a thing anymore, which it goes to like artist identity. I think a lot of times like people forget the biggest artists, they always had a team of people behind them, which was their choreographer, their creative director, their hairstylist, their makeup artist, their stylist, like their team that are literally like, okay, what are you and what are we selling to the world and what are we pushing to the world? Because people are obsessed with knowing and they want something to follow, i.e., look at Nicki Minaj's trajectory when she came out. She had bitches in bobs and pink lips. Like, that was crazy. When you look at I talked to Doja because I started with Doja as far as like what the world loves of Doja as far as like performance wise, but I call it the Holy Trinity. Myself, Brett Allen Nelson, and Darion Javon, the musical director. We were there to like work with her and sculpt ideas during the pandemic and create performances that shook the world and brought performance back to a place that we hadn't seen it in a while. But that came from artist development and a team of people like developing an artist. And I think a lot of times right now that's just it's skipped over and it's forgotten about. And I think we wonder why so many artists come in and they leave, come in and they leave. They're hot for a year, they're gone, hot for a year, and they're gone because they ain't like stirred the gravy and put the seasoning in with their team and really like played around and took it further and further and further and further every time. I think labels and management are not investing in the creative team that are behind the artist a lot. They treat everybody as if they're interchangeable, and in reality, some people just aren't. Once you find your people, they're not interchangeable. And so it's best to build that team, find that team, and build together. And I don't think people do that. It's not enough. She was talking earlier and she was speaking of like, I don't know exactly which words you use, but I say it all the time. Like when I'm in a creative space, I'm egoless. I have strong presence and I have a strong energy, but I'm egoless. Like I've been to where I need to been. Like, okay, oh, I have this idea. You got one too? Like everybody has to be like that. And that to me is what true artist development is. Everybody being open and willing to build an idea and build an artist up. And I don't think that exists much right now.
Serving the goal
Yes.
more than serving yourself.
And that goes from management on down. I've worked with some managers, man, where it's like everybody's fighting for the selfish ear of the artist and they don't really care about who has the best interest of the artist. It's like I need to get what I can get out of this artist right now where they're hot. So if you're gonna get that artist in tune with what they really are and who they truly are and get them in tune with their voice, I don't want you around. It's a lot of that going on as well. So I do think artist development is a lost sport right now.
Okay, next reason. Record labels don't want to create one big superstar. They benefit from having many stars or smaller stars.
I'm gonna say true, and that's just based on I think everything's trying to take this like venture capital tech route to everything, which is I'm gonna invest money and I hope to get a 10x return and I hope to get it fast. And if I feel like I'm not getting it, then I'm on to the next thing. So I'm gonna say true.
Yeah, I think I agree with Amanda. The people who run labels now are not music people anymore.
Yeah.
And to your point, like the people who invest into the creative team are not focused on artist development. I do agree with that because sometimes like the label versus a disconnect versus just like the artist team. And I think that okay, so I have a long-winded. I'm gonna try to be as quick as possible. I think because all the companies are public, and now that artists have better deals and licensing deals, they're focused more on catalog, all the artists, bigger stars, because they sell like an old, I don't know, Khalees song like Milkshake. They own that in perpetuity, versus like going put out like a new Layla song where they have to go split that up. So it's like they're purposely like go moving the catalog versus frontline business. So I do, and I think when they create a superstar, they get less of a piece of it.
Artists are too accessible because of social media. No mystique. We've talked about that, and I know we've talked about that, and you don't like things, the tag showing. Um,
They don't get it.
yeah, on things. But another, I mean, we
I
say,
just think it was the thing for me looking at
yeah,
superstars back in the day. You didn't get all of the things, the explanations. You know what I mean? Like just breaking it down to hair.
yes,
Like I used to love when clients would come into the salon and they had a picture of a celebrity. We didn't know how they what they used and how they did it. Like you found your own way. It kind of promoted creativity, you know? It was like, oh, maybe they did it this way. I'm gonna give it to you my way, you know? Instead of going online and you're seeing like wig by, install by, color by, I use this brand. It's just like so much information. And I feel it makes me feel like you can see the tag hanging from the
Yes,
wig.
that's
And
true
I
too.
don't
Wow.
necessarily like it. You know, I love the mystery or just, you know, like just what they wanted you to see is what you saw.
Yeah.
Which was them looking this way. I didn't need you to know that I had to like ice my face, put on this blush. I put this wig. Like it's too much. Now you look all normal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
But to play devil's advocate to
But
that,
I do love when people share a lot.
yes,
Like I love
yeah,
Cardi
yes,
for her. Like it made me love her more, all of
yes,
those things. You know what I
yeah,
mean? But also, like, she didn't start off looking like a
yes,
superstar to
yes,
me.
yeah,
I
yes,
just loved her for that. And
yes,
then I grew to love the thing. So it just depends on where you want to start.
yeah. I want to close things out by kind of just talking about, well, this is just to give you a sense of who's sold a lot of albums this year so far. But I want to talk about something that Lizzo just released a video where she basically said there's a reason why there wasn't a song of the summer. And it's because, well, it's because the algorithm is not serving people the music. And that we should stop trying to aspire to reach everybody and really start trying to hone in on our super fans. And she's created like a private IG account where she talks to her close fans and people who actually want to be her fan. But my question is to end things out, like, is superstardom, especially people who have come up post the internet, which, as we noticed when I said current superstars, a lot of them have come up before social or whatever. Is superstardom even something that is realistic for people to aspire to, given the oversaturation, given the constraints of the algorithm and social, given how people behave, given what we've seen happen to some of our superstars? I think, you know, you look at a Whitney Houston, a Michael Jackson, a Prince, these are all people who sadly kind of succumbed to the trials and tribulations of what comes with being famous and then whatever. But yeah, is superstardom something that, first off, logically, is it still even possible in the same way that it was in the past?
I'll say yes. I think the next superstar we won't see for a long time because it takes time. And I think the next superstar is not thinking about being a superstar. They're obsessed over their craft, their POV, their world. All of these people are obsessed with their world.
Yep.
Every single one of them. I could go down the list and just really quickly say what their world is. And sorry for the snapping. And so that's my 2 cents is yes, we will see another one. Also, something we didn't touch on, which I hate to bring up another topic, is most superstars started really young.
Yes.
And so that's another question that I know we might not have time to touch on, but I'm interested to see who are the young kids that are and what they're doing. I think the next superstar is probably very young still.
I think the next superstar is bubbling and will be here faster than we know it. I think the world is ready for a superstar. I think the world is ready like for something. I feel like the world is just like waiting, and I feel like there's just a bunch of people that are just continuously just getting it wrong. And either someone's about to step up or somebody's just literally about to sneak in the door and just wreck it and completely give us superstar the way that we know it to be. I think the world is ready for it. I can feel it. And I think it's on the way. A lot sooner than later. I think in the next 2 years.
Any other Sycamore would you like to end things with? Is super, because you work with young artists.
Right.
You work with Don Toliver. Does he want to be a superstar?
Yeah, he for sure does.
Okay.
You know, and he last 3 albums, he's been focused on his world build and
Yep.
building it up and just focus on what's the most important thing. He just dropped a song, Tiramisu,
Yep.
last week. That's doing really great. And you know, just I feel like my job is like a coach.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? That's how I look at myself. I look at it like a somebody who's supposed to just help you get better and get you the best version of yourself. You know, and I think that's for the most part, that's all of our jobs, right? Especially when you do artist development. Like you just gotta get somebody, you gotta, you know, when they
No,
looking
why
at
you look at me, artist? I don't do artists.
You do, but you don't know it. But go ahead.
I think choreography in here is a huge
Yeah.
part of artist development. Like,
Yeah.
you know, when you building an artist right now, like you could sometimes you could tell like their era from their hair. That's all part of the world build. That's all a part of artist development. You can just see like a meme or just a silhouette
I
of
do
them.
like moments with rollouts so that your mind remembers what that was.
That's
Mhm.
absolutely development for
That is
sure.
defining the era.
It's like this was that moment, even if it's simple. Like you only wore a ponytail during this. It's
Right.
like, oh, that was the ponytail
Like
album. You know
Ariana.
what I mean?
Could you imagine the stylist who told Rihanna for the Good Girl Gone Bad, hey,
Yeah.
cut your hair and do this?
Yes, that's my friend Ursula.
Ursula's a
Yes.
superstar.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
And
that
she had the red hair, she had the black
Right.
pixie cut, like she had hair eras. Nicki Minaj had black girls in the hood with bobs and bangs and pink lipstick.
Terrence.
Come on.
Mhm.
Choreographers are more important in pop than A&Rs and labels. They fight for different choreographers to get them into their new world builds. Like this I feel like what we do is all more important than ever. And I think
Mhm.
that when you have like a craft, something
Mhm.
that you're giving your life to, like this is what I do for a living. That's what I could teach my family and my children to do. Like it's important that, you know, we are shepherds. We're giving it to the new generation. That's why we're all here, you know? And I think like there are always gonna be new stars that come up. And I think we just gotta be ready for when they knock on our door.
That's a perfect place to end. I don't even have to say anything. I just thank y'all for coming. Obviously we see what happens online and we see so many chatter and talking heads. Amanda, you're a talking head that I enjoy. But yeah, so many talking heads who have opinions about what it takes to make a superstar or why we don't have superstars. And I just wanted to bring a group of people together who actually know what they're talking about and who work with these people on a day-to-day basis and who also have a lot of thought, intention, and care with what they do. So thank you so much.
Thank
But
you.
thank you.